Without further ado, Bob Pennypacker and Eric Ziedrich of Healdsburg, Sotheby's International Realty. Healdsburg, one of the most special places, luxury real estate markets in the United States, if not the world, without a fact. And it's such a pleasure to speak with you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, especially having such limited time right now in such a booming, so to speak, luxury real estate market such as Healdsburg.
Thanks so much for inviting us. It's really a pleasure.
Eric, little side note, I saw that, along just as Bob has, quite an impressive resume, and I saw that you went to Cal State Chico. I thought that was fantastic. I love Chico.
Yep, the Harvard of the West.
I have not heard Chico called the Harvard of the West, but I'm going to use that from now on. Well, on that note, both of you having such impressive resumes, histories, careers, if you will, Bob, yours in international architecture, and then Eric, yours in, I can see, with Healdsburg Lumber Company, which you purchased, and just between the two of you, the many different facets that you have had the fortunate opportunities to excel at and encounter during your careers, and then ultimately to find yourselves doing something that you love so very much and are leaders at in the community that you love so much, i.e. Healdsburg, California, right there in wine country, and just such a fantastic location. And Bob, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about, which obviously is so very relevant right now, is the background of Healdsburg, and who better than to provide such a background of Healdsburg than the two of you, Bob and Eric, becoming a destination. And then in correlation with that, thoughts on the recent quote unquote surge, is one way to put it, in housing prices.
Yeah, right. So in terms of Healdsburg becoming a destination, I regard one of the big factors as being the coming of the freeway bypass.
Right.
Back in, when was that?
In the early 60s, late 50s.
Yeah. And what that did was, so Coddingtown Mall opened up in Santa Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no reason for people to stay local with their shopping. And as a result, the plaza, which is like the crown jewel of Healdsburg today, practically boarded up. There was 40% vacancy at the time. And
wow.
Back in the, I guess, mid 70s, when like people were trying to figure out what to do, I think actually our broker was one of the people who were instrumental in getting the wineries and hospitality working together. And that was an ongoing effort that finally, I'd say in the 90s?
Late 80s.
Late 80s?
Yeah.
Really started having an impact. Word had gotten out about Healdsburg, the plaza repopulated, quite an active restaurant and, food and wine and art scene as well.
But it's interesting that Healdsburg, that really was a renaissance, that Healdsburg in the 20s, 30s, 40s was a destination as a resort for primarily the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
Because of mostly geographic proximity. And then, like you said, the freeway killed us, and the city fathers were struggling to find a new identity and an attraction to rekindle the tourist trade.
And that was, so you said that happened in the 60s, and then it wasn't until the late 80s. So a good, give or take, 25 years that Healdsburg experienced that downturn, so to speak, correct?
Right.
When we moved to Healdsburg in the early 80s, probably 60% of the downtown plaza was boarded up. So the plywood business was very good in Healdsburg then.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I had no. Let's see. I've known Healdsburg since the '90s, so well after that time period. I had no idea that it had encountered that.
Yeah, and actually, I know people who moved here in the 70s who chose Healdsburg because they couldn't afford Santa Rosa.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
So things have changed quite a bit.
They have changed quite a bit. And on that note, Bob, you had, of course, wanted to discuss this, as I just mentioned, and I would bring it up regardless. With respect to Healdsburg now, as it stands, and what you're seeing in Healdsburg with respect to the, again, as you put it, surge in housing prices. And since we last spoke, Bob, which again, say give or take 4 or 5 months ago, a lot has changed since then. And a lot had changed from March, April of 2020 up until then. And it continues to, in general, but then especially in coveted, spectacular lifestyle markets such as Healdsburg, it continues to accelerate.
Yeah, it's a little seasonal. It's slowed down just a little bit, I'd say, in January, but not a whole lot. What do you think?
The momentum probably has plateaued, but we continue to become, I would say, more sophisticated with the quality and type of new businesses, restaurants, and lodging facilities, hotels, resorts that are moving into the area.
Yeah.
Case in point, such as that, as we discussed slightly when we spoke the first time, Bob, that magnificent Montage Healdsburg as an example.
Yes, and that is, the Montage residences start at $5.25 million, and they're, I think, in the first phase, is it 40 of them?
I think that's about right.
Something like that. They're 70% sold out already.
And what a strong indicator as to what Healdsburg is now, what Healdsburg commands, how Healdsburg is such a desired, again, luxury lifestyle market to live in. Not only to have perhaps a second home in, but to truly live in. And I would imagine, this is a statement and a question, that you're seeing, especially, let's say, with respect to, as an example, since we're discussing it, the Montage Healdsburg, it's not necessarily a significant percentage of people from the Bay Area, correct?
No, not at all. Not at all. I was working with one client who was out of Las Vegas, but he ended up backing out. That never happens with realtors, right?
But it's almost
that's the first time I've heard of that.
Market.
Montage is definitely it's global appeal on that. So one of the things that both Eric and I are concerned about is this matter of affordability there. And what has happened is people, the town is booming, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of jobs here, but the people who can fill them can't afford to live here.
Right.
So a town of 11,000 people, we have a really annoying rush hour beginning and end of the day because people coming and going from town instead of just, going home here.
Right, because they have to commute to either, I imagine, Santa Rosa or Cloverdale or something to that effect, right?
Or beyond.
Yeah.
Or beyond.
County.
Yeah. So the way Eric and I met was back in 2016. We were working. You chaired the
housing committee. Correct.
Healdsburg has this draconian restrictions on new market rate housing.
Mm-hmm.
but only 30 units a year can be built, which, the demand far exceeds that, but because, on the one side, you have the people who are here and love it just the way it is,
Right.
don't want any more people, and the people who want the affordable housing say we can't have any more market rate, or we can't expand market rate housing because that'll just make the situation worse. So it's an interesting dilemma.
And there's all kinds of undercurrents and emotions that are economic and social that's really driven a wedge in the community in some sense.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So so what has happened because of this, the restrictions, one of the ways around that is you buy a home just for the land and you tear it down. Then you can do that because that doesn't impact the number of housing units.
Well, if you save a wall, it becomes a remodel, and a remodel is exempt from the allocation count.
And so is that currently being done by?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Big time. And one recent buyer from down San Francisco Peninsula did just that, and as he was having the house demolished, he was like daily getting some interesting notes taped to the door from people who didn't like what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that is what, when you have a treasured community such as a Healdsburg, and let's call it 50-50 down the middle, and as Eric so aptly used the term, a wedge being driven between two sides, and you can see both points of view. That being said, when what is occurring right now and has been occurring again since March, April of 2020 is that old school guard, so to speak. I've seen it in Montecito, I've seen it in Aspen, you see it in again amazing markets such as Healdsburg. They ultimately, and it unfortunately it takes time, hopefully not too much time, but they ultimately need to realize that in my opinion, and it is what comes to fruition, they need to accept the change, and the best way is to work with the change and to positively impact it, as opposed to trying to fight it. Because
absolutely.
Because there's nothing you can do but lose.
That's coming from a pragmatic, reasonable person. Remember.
Because ultimately you're going to lose. You're going to be bitter. You're just going to be unhappy because you're living it, and that's what you carry with you. Or alternatively, again, you can positively, bridge the gap between the two sides, remove the wedge, and obviously that's what I'm sure that you, Bob, and Eric would love to see happen. And so are the two of you, and say others that perhaps you engage with and work with within the Healdsburg community, working to kind of eliminate that wedge and bridge the gap?
Well, we're terribly reasonable and pragmatic, but somewhat unique with the major players in this conflict.
Right.
And I would say, in a perfect world, we would love to reach some compromises and understanding and work with the objective of meeting everybody's needs to some extent. But we have some pretty combative and confrontational personalities that have dug their heels into one side, not so much on the other.
Yeah.
Right.
What's interesting is people delude themselves so that they can fight change.
Yep.
And what the change that has come about by resisting it is these skyrocketing prices.
Right. And then you have, it's this, And then you have the age-old catch-22, which again has happened in. And if you showed them these examples of how or where it's happened, they quote unquote they typically aren't interested in analyzing it. They're not interested in looking at it. But eventually, if that middle, the working class, so to speak, those that are running the galleries, those that are at the restaurants, those that are running the hotels, et cetera, there's only a certain amount of time before they'll stop commuting ridiculous commutes. It will run out. And so then, I don't need to spell this out for you, but it's that other side that just doesn't get it. And then to a certain extent, they think, well, that'll be good. I want that to happen. But they don't realize that, no, you don't. And the positive change that is occurring in Healdsburg that can occur if managed appropriately, because that's also what happens, in my opinion, whether it's in the States or the Caribbean, is if that side doesn't realize, okay, I need to positively influence this and positively engage with it so that I can assist in ensuring that this can be of the greatest possible benefit to Healdsburg, it can potentially backfire, because then you don't have it, because it's not managed correctly, the growth, the boom, so to speak.
So what, you brought up Montecito?
As an example, yeah. Montecito
So have they made progress in this regard?
They have. It took some time, though. Just a great example was the Miramar on the beach there. One of the most fantastic luxury hotels on the planet, right there in Montecito. Adjacent to the Biltmore, Montecito, and Butterfly Beach. Just truly a magnificent, it's a treasure, such as Healdsburg. And the old school locals, they just fought it. They fought Caruso, who's this amazing legendary developer. You may know his name. And it's the first time he went in front of city council after city council after city council meeting. He finally just threw up a flag and walked away. Now, since then, you're correct. They made some drastic changes. So they hit their own tipping point, so to speak, whatever might have occurred. And now they have made some amazing progress. It took time.
What sort of initiatives did they implement?
I don't know if it was a specific initiative. It just was eventually that perhaps it was that quote unquote old guard eventually began, moving out of their positions and thus not having their heels dug in anymore, is what quite frankly could have been. But again, it is a good example because, Montecito is such an amazing place. And I think it's fair to correlate very much so Healdsburg with Montecito, because Healdsburg is it's a treasure. It's a magnificent place. It's probably from, once you get past San Francisco all the way up to 101, it's probably without a doubt the most spectacular spot in Northern California as a really rich, historic, beautiful, magnificent lifestyle community. Yeah, it has, as you and I have discussed at length previously, Bob.
Yeah.
We need to hire you by the Chamber of Commerce. So.
Yeah. Having this outside perspective
to remind us
yes.
how lucky we are. With an interesting comment with your anecdotal reference to Montecito in here, the real issue or a concern that I have certainly is the time frame. And we've been fighting this growth issue since 2000. So we're already well into 20 years of this battle, and really curious how long it's going to take for those that still have their heels dug in, fighting the whole concept of growth and the maturing of a tourist destination like Healdsburg. At some point, do they move out? Do they die?
Well, there are various ways that people move on from their positions. You just named two of them, but
not that I'm advocating those.
No, of course not. But at the end of the day, it often can be that, and just as with anything, you can, on a certain level, you can. Okay, I I'm not speaking for myself, but one can say, okay, I do understand their opinion. I understand why they don't want to see the change. But again, that being said, it's such a magnificent opportunity at this moment in time with respect to the change that's occurring, and especially you two knowing it better than anyone, being two of the leading luxury realtors and brokers in the market, in that the change that can occur if everyone did embrace it could be nothing short of absolutely exceptional. Because the money that's coming in, it's not as though you have people coming at you from every angle trying to put up shopping malls or with certain types of monetary infusions that could absolutely be awful. But it's money that's coming in the likes of, to use the example again, Montage Healdsburg. Montage doesn't throw up a luxury hotel with residences just anywhere. You obviously don't need me to tell you that. But when Montage puts their stamp on a property and gets full force behind it as they have there, that represents the fact that of what Healdsburg is and what it's become.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
True.
And if we could somehow convince folks to embrace and collaborate with the whole spirit of change, as opposed to confronting it and becoming obstacles, the whole thing, the end result would be so much beneficial, so more beneficial than what we're enduring right now.
Yeah. So one of the things I keep reminding myself is that before Healdsburg was even incorporated, the reason it was here was to serve tourists. Back in 1860s, when people came here to go to the geysers.
Right, the geysers, right.
On horse and buggy.
Yeah,
right.
And the whole one side of the plaza was nothing but hotels.
And now we have a ban on new hotels.
Yes, and it's amazing. It's just across the board, a ban on all hotels?
In the core downtown area, yes, there's been a really unfortunate reaction from the community. That not only did they ban high-end residential homes through this growth management ordinance, but then they took the second tack of prohibiting further hotel development. So for a property owner with vacant land, what other options do they have?
Shopping malls.
Right. Yeah. So someone on their own private land also cannot, if they want to put up the next, luxury boutique W hotel. No, even on their own.
Not downtown.
Not downtown.
That's interesting. That's an interesting.
And they might have to wait a half dozen years if they wanted to build a single family residence.
Wow, that's what an interesting situation for the two of you, Eric and Bob, to be in that the potential, if those bans were potentially or didn't exist, or if they were potentially removed, I mean, the opportunity, because you put in, one additional, again, even if it's a boutique, just as an example, I use it because Aspen just had one put in a W, right? You put in as an example, a W in the core downtown. I mean, what that does in revenues with respect to the restaurants, the galleries, and then the additional galleries and restaurants that it brings in. I mean, the monetary upside, if that side saw that and was able to embrace it, and it was done correctly, so it did nothing but beauty, and this is a significant statement because Healdsburg is already so spectacular and miraculous and beautiful, but then to be able to make it even that much more beautiful, to make it that much more spectacular and internationally renowned, and then thus, of course, circling back to the two of you, the real estate prices can continue to hold strong and or increase, while at the same time, percentages of those new hotels, et cetera, can be used too, and simply putting it in appropriate places, build that housing for those that are commuting, it sounds like from what you said at the beginning of the conversation, an hour plus each way to get to those jobs.
Yeah. Definite, a lot of potential.
And we're actually already seeing it with the proliferation, the last, half dozen years or up to 10 years of new hotels have delivered a tremendous amount of income to the city via transient occupancy tax.
So there was another hotel / residential development going on. It was finally approved 2 years ago, Mill District.
Oh, yes.
And what they did, and even some of the old guard opponents actually embraced it was along with the what's 50-room hotel, eventually 130 residential.
I think that's correct.
Yeah. High end, this is like 1,600-1,700 bucks a square foot kind of residential.
Mm-hmm.
Their first project on the agenda, which is 8 months into it already, is 44 units of affordable housing.
Right.
So the private sector is stepping up for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That works, and we've seen other projects as well, including Montage. But one of the unintended consequences of that is a proliferation of affordable or subsidized housing and very high-end residential. And what's been plaguing Healdsburg for probably 20 years is the missing middle, which is a key concept. There's nothing being built for that huge middle market area.
Yeah, like what people consider starting homes here, 1,500 square feet on 3,000 square foot lot, start in the low millions.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and so everything, if you don't, what do you do?
Well, right, and you go 45 miles north to say Ukiah, up also on the 101, and I would take a relatively educated guess or assumption right now that homes of exactly the same specs that you just mentioned, Bob, I would imagine they're probably starting in, say, the 200s. So in that 45-mile distance, you're looking at almost $1 million starting price point difference.
Yeah, when one of the listings Eric and I had when we first teamed up was a really, really nice house over in Lake County.
I know Lake County well. I spent my childhood in Jago Bay and at Canocti Harbor.
Oh, yeah?
All right, this was in Buckingham.
So the Beverly Hills of Lake County.
The Beverly Hills of Lake County.
Marketed it was how to save $1 million in an hour.
Right, there you go. There you go. Very well said. Very well said. Lake County is another one. We won't segue into it, but that's another one that, had it been managed correctly on so many levels, had the potential to become something pretty extraordinary. But that's a great example on the opposite side of the Montecitos and the Healdsburg. That's a great example of what can happen when an area has the potential and is not managed at all or managed incorrectly or inappropriately.
Yeah.
Complete train wreck. Complete train wreck.
Yeah.
No offense, Lake County.
I'm actually working on their new marketing slogan as well, and it's complete train wreck.
The only way is out.
There you go. The only way is out, and that's a strong positive. You can't go any further down.
Yeah, and full disclosure here, Eric and I found out also recently that we both owned property in Lake County at one point.
That's past tense, mind you.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Wow, that's fantastic. That's amazing. It really is, just because I did spend our summers growing up there, and then I worked at Canocti as a dock coordinator back when the hotel was functioning during the summers. It had such great potential. I mean, it's the largest freshwater lake in California. Because
it's beautiful.
Yeah, because Tahoe obviously is split between Nevada and California. But yeah, it is beautiful, and it could be. But again, we could go into all the problems. Since you brought it up, what parts of Lake County did each of you own in?
I was in Lucerne.
Okay.
And I was in the nice part of Nice.
Nice and Lucerne. Know them very
North end of the lake.
Know them very well.
The year we bought there was also the motel businesses were failing apparently, and the state bought one of them as a to use as a halfway house for ex-convicts.
Yeah,
That was in the term.
yeah, Lake County, unfortunately, in that regard, and then also the addiction problems, et cetera. Just very, very unfortunate. Now, that being said, to give Lake County, to sum up Lake County with a positive note, is it does have, which also we can segue back into to Healdsburg, of course, with this. It does have a relatively, from what I have seen consistently now for a few years, a relatively strong and growing viticulture and wine industry.
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
And so perhaps my slogan is not going to work, and Lake County is with that. That could perhaps become the that changing factor for Lake County. And with respect to, so since you touched upon homes starting at 1.1 approximately in Healdsburg now, what is inventory like now for the two of you, and especially since we last spoke, Bob, say again about 5 months ago or so?
What is inventory?
You'll-
A normal market here, you have anywhere between 80 and 100 homes on the market.
Okay.
We're at 35, I think.
I think it's dropping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
35 in the entire market.
Yeah.
Very thin.
Very thin. I mean, that's such an interesting dynamic to be in, being specifically the two of you, and then again, it represents such strength, of course, with home prices and just the overall viability and strength of the market as a leading luxury market. Yet, when your inventory gets down to those levels, it's an interesting spot to be in, correct?
Well, I think one of the reasons for, when you speak of inventory, that's like really a snapshot of at any one point. It's just that when things come on the market, they're snapped up right away.
Right.
So a few years ago, the average on the market time for a home was 60 days maybe, and today 15.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So,
it's
and
amazing.
the other thing is when, I did my January stats at the end of the month compared to last year, dollar volume and unit volume were both way up from 2021, which is, when you think of no inventory, it's just that it's moving fast.
Yeah.
Right. Moving fast and holding at the price levels as it has been, and again, whether it's in Montecito again or Aspen or Miami Beach. I saw that Miami Beach now is the most expensive in the country with its housing market boom. But again, whether you're in Healdsburg,
Really?
Aspen, exploding. But and just as Healdsburg is as well, it's that it then comes down to being the best at what you do and working with assets that you haven't worked with before, technologies you haven't before, Bob, such as yourself with Realm, utilizing those facilities and those assets at your disposal to be able to, even though inventory being what it is, but having what you have at your disposal to consistently still, or even more so, perform better than you have ever in your life.
Okay.
So you say, Judd?
We don't take anything for granted.
No,
We make great efforts to be visible and available.
Right. And so I've now had and I'm so humble and grateful to have had 36 minutes of your time, because I do know how busy the two of you are. What do you, not that you have a crystal ball, and thank you for describing this, the dynamics of Healdsburg right now with such honesty and insight, more so than many might do about, or most would not do about the markets. What do you, if you had somewhat of a crystal ball, what do you see in the upcoming next half of this year, in the upcoming, let's just say for the sake of conversation, 12 months, getting to the end of this year? What do you see? Do you see any significant potential changes being able to take place in Healdsburg? Do you think it will hold status quo for the time being? What advice do you give to those clients that you have that are looking to, both clients that you've had for years and then also new potential clients that you speak to every day? What advice do you give them about Healdsburg right now and in the upcoming months?
If they're having to finance, we encourage them to move quickly since interest rates are going to be going up.
Right.
We like to tell sellers or potential sellers that no better time than now.
Right.
Because inventory is low, demand is high, can't beat that.
The wide-reaching view would be it's going to continue to be a seller's market.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no factors that will change that based upon what we see.
Very well said. And I mean, hopefully it doesn't, but the next Omicron can be right around the corner. The next, who knows, whatever variation of COVID could be right around the corner. But that is now we're at the point with COVID and the pandemic where we can talk openly about, silver linings. And in whether it's with luxury real estate in markets such as Healdsburg, with yachts, both new builds and with yacht brokers, etc., home and design, it is a silver lining. And it's almost as though it continues to solidify the fact that the luxury real estate market will not change in the foreseeable future with respect to this amazing, unprecedented, to use your word again, Bob, boom, surge, if you will.
Right. So as long as you mentioned Omicron, there was one thing I heard from a prediction is that you think Omicron was bad. The next variant plays the accordion.
I still don't get that, actually.
I like that. And if it does, there will still be in our beautiful country a debate as to whether or not you should wear a mask against that accordion playing variant of But if I saw that variant coming at me playing an accordion and I hadn't been someone that previously wore a mask, I would start doing it.
And earplugs.
And there you go.
There'll be a mask that comes with earplugs.
I love it. Thank you very much for the laughs. All right, Bob Pennypacker and Eric Ziedrich of Healdsburg Sotheby's International Realty in obviously magnificent, spectacular Healdsburg, California, Northern California, one of the greatest luxury markets in California, the West Coast of the United States, and in my opinion, the world. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have, or anything we didn't discuss that you would like to?
Probably not that we can have recorded.
Politics. We'd need 4 hours.
Well, I would love to do this again sooner rather than later when you, of course, have the time. I'll always make myself available. And again, thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time. Thank you, Bob, for coordinating the three of us doing this. It's been such a pleasure. I as you know, Bob, I love working with you. I'm very humble and grateful for the opportunity to continue working with you. And Eric, it's been such an honor to meet you. So thank you especially someone from Chico State.
The Harvard of the West.
The Harvard of the West. Well, we have to say the Harvard of the, Northern California. Well, no. We can say, I was thinking Stanford. Yes, the Harvard of the West.
Yeah. Stick with the West.
Stick with the
West
West.
of the Mississippi.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you have
Great talking to you, John.
great talking
Bye-bye.
to you. Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.